Hello friends, welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator and another video. This video is going to be the full flight with the Antonov AN-225, and we will be replicating a real-life flight of the AN-225 from Hostomel, which is where we are currently parked, to Prague. I believe the airport name is Václav Havel, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, in Prague, in Czechia. So we are currently in loading configuration and we are ready to load our aircraft, and then we will refuel, start up our aircraft from cold or dark, and start our engines, and we'll be on our way. GSX released a native support for AN-225, so you can refuel the aircraft, request pushback, etc. if you are a GSX user. But the current ramp we are parked does really not require pushback. We can turn the aircraft around and be on our way, which is what I am planning to do when we are going to start our taxi. Anyway, without further ado, let's hop into the cockpit, load our cargo, and then fuel our aircraft. Alright, welcome to the cockpit of the AN-225. As you probably know by now, the camera positions do change when you kneel the aircraft for loading the cargo, but if you use Ctrl 8 on your numerical keypad, not the numpad, the number row, then you will be able to reach the tablet to load the aircraft. We are going to take 117,000 kilograms of cargo today, which is the payload of AN-225 when that flight happened in real life. So we will take 108,000 to the center and then 4,500 to each compartment in the front and back. I wish they made these boxes where you can enter your payload. These sliders, in my opinion, are not working great, but there we have it. So we have the 117,000 kilograms applied, and we will apply the load, and now we can close our what happened there? Oh, my tablet got stuck for some reason. Okay, let's try this again. Ground, no. Okay, let me go back. I guess, there we go. Okay, it was stuck for a second. So we'll close the cabin door and the main door. We don't need the cargo bay lights. We'll keep the passenger area lights, though it's daytime, so we might not need it too. And let's check our payload is correct, 117,000. Yep. So now our ramp is being closed, and while we are waiting here, we can request refueling from GSX. Alright, let's just call the fuel truck. And hopefully by the truck reaches here, we will be in standing up position, closing the front door, or the main door rather. And I'll show you, there's still some bugs with the GSX fuel configuration, but I'll show you what you get, at least with this version, and hopefully they will update and improve this. And then we will do the cold and dark startup when we refuel. There's the fuel truck coming through the grass. And we are up, closing the main door very shortly. Okay, that's good timing. There we go. And the new option in GSX is you can request your block fuel from your SimBrief flight plan, which is what I'm going to do. And we will need 55.25 tons of fuel or metric tons of fuel for today's flight. And there's the fuel truck raising the platform, and you'll see what I meant by the bug. So the platform stops and the guy keeps hovering up into the air like Luke Skywalker. So that's the bug, and his head is definitely in the wing. So I don't know what is going on there. Look at that. So we get to see Luke Skywalker refueling our aircraft, but so be it. Looks like we will need 2,700, a little over 2,700 gallons of fuel. So that's gonna take some time, I guess. And our door is now closing. We can get into the cockpit for some silence and take it from there. So if you look at the fuel gauges, you will see them changing as we refuel with GSX, which is nice to see. So the fuel gauges are working. And we are just going to wait for the fueling to complete, and we will start our aircraft. Alright, refueling is almost done. In other words, Miria is well fed and she is ready to use the food we gave her to start her engines. So while the refueling truck is disconnecting, let's jump into the cockpit and let's start our electrical power-up procedure. So to do that, first we need to turn on our 5 batteries, as you probably remember from my first video. And that is done by turning these 5 switches to on. So now we have battery power, and we will go and start our APU. Again, APU start, unguard the starter button, put the master to on, and the fire loop to on. I am keeping my cockpit tooltips for you guys to see what I'm pressing. And we will hold the start button, and the needle will start moving, and we will see the starter engaging over here. We'll do the same for the second APU and hit the start button, and we will wait for the APU to start. Alright, both APUs are started and at full power, so we can close the guards and turn APU bleeds on, and we will leave it as is. One thing I don't really understand though is this anti-ice panel. As you see, engine anti-ice is set to manual. I'm not sure why, but I believe it needs to be in the off position. So that's what I'm going to do and move them. And I don't know why pitot heat is on by default. I don't think you are supposed to turn pitot heat on as early as electrical power up, because those tubes get really hot and it can even melt the pitot tubes. So I'm not sure if any builds will give us a true cold and dark positions of the switches in a future update, but I would very much like to see it in a future update. Anyway, we'll go down to the electrical panel. We need to turn our transformer rectifiers on, these 4 switches here, and we will see the green bars. And we will also need to turn our the transformers, the rectifiers, and then the transformer rectifiers. I mixed them up for a sec right there. There we go. So now we have electrical power. We'll go over to the communications panel, and we'll turn our avionics master switches to on, and there are a lot, so it takes some time. But you are seeing the tooltips, and you can tell which ones are being turned on now. So now the avionics masters are turned over here. We need to go over and turn individually the captain and co-pilots avionics buses, except the DME. According to Inibuild's startup procedure, the captain and first officer DME display bus remains off until you do the engine run-up. And I'm not sure why we are keeping the window heat switch off until we are at the runway as well. I'm not sure if this is the real life procedure, but I am going to follow what any builds recommends. Although there are no faults or failures in this aircraft, so doing something wrong is not going to cause trouble or put you in a bad position. So I'm not sure again. And the other reason for that is there is only one example, or was only one example, of this aircraft in real life. So the information is not commonly available like the other airliners we see in the sim, like the commercial airliners such as Boeing, Airbus, McDonnell Douglas, etc. There is more information readily available for us flight simmers, and I really wasn't able to find the standard operational procedures of AN-225 anywhere online. So, and that's due to this aircraft being its only example in the world. And I think that's acceptable that we might not have access to the real-life operational procedures of this aircraft. So there are some confusion. I wish I had a source to share with you, but I don't. And I'm just following what Enable's provided as a startup procedure for this aircraft. Anyway, so that is now done. And we are at this point pretty much ready to start our engines, but let's just take care of our flight planning and avionics before we go to the engine start panel. Now our GPS is aligning. As you see here, GNS 530. I'm not going to show you how to enter the flight plan. I have enough videos about GNS 530 from working title and how to enter a flight plan. Although I will point to a couple things when it's time, but I use the world map menu to load the flight plan. I find it easier for the video's sake, but if I'm flying on my own and not recording the video, I like to do it like in real life and enter it manually by using the GNS 530. So that's our flight plan. We don't have any departure or arrival just yet, so we will select those by going into the, not here, from flight plan menu and select departure. Our departure today is going to be, let me check my flight plan, KFA 1 Whiskey. So let's scroll down. This is the departure we will be taking, runway 33, and we will load that. So our departure is in place. We'll go into the menu and select our arrival. And our arrival is Victor Lima Mike 4 Sierra. That's the correct one. And runway 24. We will load this as well. And we will finally do our approach. Our approach is ILS to runway 24. And I'm gonna check the transition. Okay, I know it now. I was looking to my flight plan, select approach, ILS runway 24, ROTAV transition, and just load it, not activate. Although activating is not going to do anything with GNS 530 because this, actually it might, because it's controlling our autopilot, so let's just keep it there. Alright, so that's our flight plan. It is shown here, all looking good. Looks like there is some disconnection here, but we will take care of that and maybe fly in heading mode when we are flying this sector. And I get this message saying set the course to 254. I am not sure what this means. So I think it's referring to our heading. So that's our heading bug showing 0. Let's set it to 254 and see if that message disappears. So that's 251, 25, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think that's good enough. And let's see if we have the message. Yes, we do still have the message. I'm not sure why it's there. The QNH is 1004 at our current location. So it's set, and I cheated. I admit I used the B key because I don't want to convert it, and I didn't get a METAR for our departure, as you see here. We don't have METAR, so I just used B key to set it up. Our cruising level for today's flight is going to be, let me see the altitude. It says 20, no, that's not true. 32,000 feet, which is 9,753 meters. So we will set that here. We will do the ones for first, 53. And then we will switch to hundreds. And we will do 9,700. I think that's what it was. 9,700 set. Yep. Okay. Speed, we will be doing 460 kilometers below 10,000, which is close to 250 knots. It's exactly 463, but I like to keep some buffer in there, so that's 460. And if I go over here, I'd like to explain this part here. So we can see the set VOR frequency here. This is for reference only. We can see our true airspeed, ground speed, autopilot speed, and indicated airspeed. So we will stay at ground speed to monitor our taxi speed, and this is the autopilot altitude, radio altitude, and indicated altitude, or our current altitude, which we will keep it there. Alright, that is done. Our flight plan setup is complete. We can turn on Captain Nav, which will give us the navigational direction here. And we can select it for our Copilot 2, just in case. And one other thing I noticed is if I select it here, this HSI does not turn around like the Captain's does. I'm not sure if it's something Inibuilds did intentionally, but just be aware. And let's do a final check. Everything looks okay over here. Everything looks okay over here except the fuel panel. So the fuel panel in the manual says set it like this. That comes off, that comes off, that comes off, and this is the correct fuel setup. And there is another one for landing. I'm not sure what the difference. Again, there is no information on how to set up the fuel pumps in this aircraft and how they should be operated. So I am just following the manual Inibuilds provided. We will turn off all the hydraulic pumps for engine start. That's also stated in the manual. We will check our electrical hydraulic pumps to make sure they are working, which they are. We see two green arrows. We'll turn them off. And we'll go down and open the engine starter cover. So you can do two things here. You can start your engines manually, or you can start your engines automatic. I showed how to manually start each engine in my previous video with the AN-225. So for this video, we will do an auto engine start, and we will start our engines using the automatic engine start function of the AN-225. So to start our engines, we need to do one more thing after turning off our fuel pumps, and that is to turn our FADEC, full authority digital engine control systems, for 6 engines so that the aircraft can control the engines. And that is pretty much it to start our engines. No, I lied. One more thing. I forgot to turn on the nav lights. That's one thing, and we need to turn our beacon lights on for engine start. Now we are ready to start our engines. So we'll go down. As I said, we will be using auto engine start, so we will select engine auto sequence engine start button to on, and we will hold the engine starter for 3 seconds until we see the lights and let go of it. And if we look, our engine number 1 already started spilling up. So these top gauges are N2 gauges, as I mentioned before, and these bottom ones are M1 gauges. So each gauge is for 2 engines. This is engine 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and 5 and 6. So number 1 gauge is 1, 2 is 2, number 1 is 3, 2 is 4, number 1 needle, I'm sorry, number 1 needle is 5, number 2 needle is engine 6. This takes quite some time to start the engines, roughly about 5.5 minutes, and after that we will have all the engines running. Alright, all of our engines are now up and running. Let's go inside. As you see, now we can close the starter panel, turn on our hydraulic pumps, and close all the guards, and we should see the lights turning to green, stating that our hydraulic system is now powered and we have hydraulic pressure. We'll check the center pumps one more time, and we'll go to the electrical panel. So here we need to turn on our engine generators. We need to turn off our APU generators, and we are ready to stop our APUs. We'll press and hold the button for APU stop, and we should see the needle coming down. And when it reaches to 0, we can turn the fire loops, the master switches, and the bleeds off to shut down our APUs. And from there, we will be ready to taxi to start our flight to Czech Republic or Czechia. Just a little bit more, APU is still spooling down. Almost there. Now we can close the master switches. This is just a starter master as far as I can tell you. So even the APU is running, you can close the guards and turn them off, and it's not gonna cause any issues. But APU is now off. We can turn off the fire loops and finally turn off the APU bleeds. Alright, now everything is powered by our engine generators. QNH is set, but we will cheat again and press the B key to make sure it is still accurate. We are set over here, and we are ready to taxi to the runway. So runway 33, our departure runway, is right over here. That's runway 33, so that's a very short taxi where we will leave this pad, turn around, and take this taxiway into the runway. And we'll talk about the autopilot when we are ready to do so. Alright, for taxiing, what we will do is we will put the flaps to 2. We'll move the speed brakes to front position and then back, so that's the arm. I'm not sure why you need to move them to the full up position before you can arm them, but this is the arm position. But you need to first move them into this position and then arm. That's what the experience is, because I did that without doing it and they didn't deploy during landing. Reversal lever, we need to bring it up in the event of a rejected takeoff, so that's up now. And engine idle switches, they are over here. We'll put them to full high idle. That will help with taxiing, so it will command the FADEC to provide 24%. Is this M1, N2, one of them? I can't remember which one, and I can't tell because I can't read Cyrillic. But that's what you do, and then we will do a flight control. So those are over here. We'll do full back, center, full forward, center, full left, center, and we see the speed brakes as well. Full right, center, left rudder, and we have 2, as I mentioned in the other video, and right rudder. Flight controls are free and correct. Our aileron trim and rudder trim are neutral, so I think this is the shortcut to see them closer. That one looks a little bit off, but it is at the center position. I didn't touch them. We loaded cold and dark, but to me, and you see it's 0 on the tooltips. Alright, nose wheel steering is over here. It's already on, so we don't have to change anything here. Anti-ice we will not need. And overhead panel, we will turn our taxi lights to on. Those are, the taxi light is the down position of this, and that we will also turn the logo and fuselage lights on. They might be turned on during nighttime, but I'm following the manual, so all the lights are on. And I believe we still have the chocks, so let's go and remove our chocks as well. And now we are ready to taxi. So taxi, we will turn in the pad to the left until our nose is facing that way, and we will taxi out to runway 33. Alright, let's see if I can do this from the cabin. Parking brake off. We already started moving on high idle power, and we will move and turn. And to help it, I'm gonna increase the power on my right wing engines, 4, 5 and 6, and hopefully it will provide more power to aid the turn so that we don't leave the pad and get into the grass. Looks like we are turning in place, which is nice to see. And when we make the turn, I will put them back to idle because we don't want to speed up too much during taxi. So this is how I'm turning if I'm not facing the right direction. I use GSX pushback too, so it works. There we go, we made the turn. Bring the right wing engines to idle, and we will follow this taxiway out, and we'll make that sharp U-turn into our taxiway. Alright, very nice. This is this immediate left turn from here. We probably can use some differential braking to help the aircraft turn a little bit sharper. But looks like she is not having any problems turning, so ground handling is awesome. Inibuilds did a great job with ground handling. There are no problems whatsoever to taxi this big bird around any airport. So okay, we're coming up to runway 33. We can go back to low idle. We have enough power to get there and enough speed. And we will follow this taxiway and hold short prior to entering to the runway and set our aircraft for takeoff. Alright, we will brake a little bit and hold here. Okay, that's good. And we need to do a couple things to get ready for takeoff. First off, we'll turn the strobes on. Those are here. We'll turn off our taxi lights and turn our landing lights on. That will also turn the strobes. I am using my controller and sped.next for commanding this custom configuration where I can manipulate multiple switches by pressing a single button. And I don't need to keep the logo and fuselage lights on. I think we can leave them as is because it's daytime. So reverser handle is up, speed brakes are armed, cutoff switches are guarded, nav selected, nose wheel steering still on, and we'll do a takeoff config check after putting our flaps into the right position, which is full flaps takeoff. So 15, 25 and 35, and we will monitor our flaps movement. Where was my flap indicator? That's what I'm trying to see here. Oh, there it is. They are coming down. These 6 red dots are our flap indicators, and there we go. 25 and full flaps. Beautiful. If you haven't noticed, and we need to turn the transponder to TA array while we are here. There is a takeoff config check and there is a landing configuration check. So we'll do the takeoff config check by pressing this button for 10 seconds, and if we see a green light, our takeoff config is normal. If we see a red light, we have to look and see what we missed. We saw the green light, takeoff config normal, release the brakes, and let's line up and do the run up. I will manually command 24%. That will get us moving, and we will line up and do our engine run up. Alright, let's do this. I need to turn on my head tracking to see where I'm turning. I think it's expected her to move a little bit slower due to its size and weight. I don't think you can expect the AN-225 to taxi and move like a Boeing 737. She's almost 3 times bigger than that aircraft, and that's probably expected that you are going to taxi a little bit slower in this aircraft. Alright, so we aren't lined up properly, but we will momentarily. Alright, that's close. We'll stop here. We'll set our parking brake. Let me just reset my wheel. That's better. Okay. Parking brake is there, so it's now set. We can release the toe brakes. And what we are going to do is we are going to command 70%. And the run up takes 2 minutes to warm up the engines at 70%. And after a minute, what we need to do, which I'm going to do right now because I'm not gonna wait here 2 minutes and waste your guys' time. We turn on the captain's DME display and captain's window heat switch on, and first officer DME display and first officer window heat switch on. That's done during the run up. Everything is looking good. We need to sync our heading to our runway heading. So let's do that now. That is close to me. Yep. And we are ready to go. And I will cut the run up short. I don't think it's going to affect anything due to not having any failures. So let's bring the throttles back to idle. Alright, we are now ready to rock and roll. Let's do this. This blue bar is our takeoff or rotate speed that we will start pitching up about here, about 20 kilometers to that blue, and then we will maintain the blue and command or cut the throttles a little bit if we are speeding up too much, because we don't want to overspeed and get above 250 knots, below 10,000. So things are going to happen very fast. I'll try to explain as much as I possibly can during takeoff run. So parking brake is off, and off we go. Increase the throttles to full power. Oh, one more thing. Hold on. Nose wheel steering goes off during takeoff because we don't need nose wheel steering anymore. We are on the runway and we will be using our rudders to control the aircraft. Now we can go full power, align a little bit better to the center line, and off we go. Alright. Speed is alive. Forward pressure on the yoke to keep the nose on the ground until we are ready to pull back. I'm applying some right rudder, looks like we have some wind. And we are coming up there, so let's start pitching up gently. And she should lift off. There we go. We are off the ground, so gear is coming up. and we will climb like this and maintain the blue dot. And when we have the landing gear retracted, we are going to pitch down to start increasing our speed. We are already climbing like crazy, and start retracting our flaps. Okay, landing gear is now in, the lights are extinguished, and when you bring the flaps in, she will pitch down aggressively, so you need to counter that with nose up. Okay, that's one notch of flaps. Flaps coming in more. One more, and we have one last stage of flaps left, and I'm maintaining the pitch by pulling back, and I'm gonna trim to maintain this pitch so that I can let go of the yoke. Okay, last notch of flaps, and we will cut the throttles because we are coming to 250. We will go down to 70% to maintain 250 below 10,000. We don't want to overspeed. Okay, so now we are ready to discuss the autopilot. What we will do is we will go to navigation mode. We will select autopilot master, and we will select nav, and we will select pitch hold because we want to pitch, or speed hold, I'm sorry, because we want to maintain the speed, and then now we can increase the throttles and the aircraft will control the pitch, and we are aiming for 2000 feet per minute when climbing. The manual says bring the throttles down to 112 and leave it there for the entire climb, but I find it a little bit more aggressive, so I'd like to control it manually and maintain 2000 feet per minute climb when we are climbing. So we already, I think, passed the transition altitude for our departure airport. Let me check the departure chart. Transition level by ATC, transition altitude 10,000. Okay, so 10,000 feet, we will go to standard barometric pressure, and I will cheat again and press the B key. We are making that white turn. If I show you here, and we are now flying towards Capel. All right, all is looking good. And this is, I think, okay. There is some discontinuity here, so we can switch back to heading mode if we want to, and then sync our heading to our current heading, or to a heading where it will take us to our next waypoint, like so, because that's where the aircraft is pointing on our HSI. And we will select the course button, and the aircraft will turn towards our next waypoint. We are still climbing nicely, so I'm gonna keep the throttles like this, and we can do the after takeoff checks. So the reverse bar can go down, landing lights will remain on until we pass 10,000. And let me see, anything else I forgot after takeoff? Not really. That warning here you see is for auto throttle. We are not going to use auto throttle for climb until we reach cruise, because it's not the recommended way of climbing, and your aircraft will pitch up and down like crazy if you use auto throttle. Our speed came down somehow, so let's go up to 460 again, and we are about to pass 10,000. We will increase that even more. And that is the behavior you saw. So we can increase the throttle just a little bit more to maintain a 2000 feet per minute pitch. That's good enough for me now. Oh, that's even like more than what I needed. We passed 10,000, landing lights are coming off. I used my switch to turn them off. Strobes are still on, landing lights are off, and we can verify they are. Beautiful view behind us. We are climbing nicely at our preferred or planned pitch rate. And We passed 10,000, we'll cheat and press the B key to switch to standard pressure. Oh, we cannot, so let's just do it manually, because Microsoft Flight Simulator, we have to do it until we have to do it at 18,000. So wrong place. So 759.8, that's what we need on our altimeter. Let's go and do that. 759. That should do it. Yep. And we are doing just fine. So about 10,000, we can increase the speed slowly to 515 and 17, and that is around 280 knots. If you check here, 280 knots is 518, and that will be our climb speed until we reach our cruise level. I am just doing it very gently, just to avoid the aircraft pitch up and down as it starts to increase the speed. So I will just slowly go up to 518, or maybe we will stop at 515 to give us some buffer. There we go. And as you see, due to this autopilot being 40 years old, I think this is why it's doing this. It's maybe not the recommended way, but we started pitching up again and climbing exactly around 2,000 feet per minute, which I am happy about, and we will do this until we reach to the cruise. Beautiful view behind us, and we are climbing nicely. Alright, we are coming up to 30,000 feet. We are cruising nicely. She is definitely a beast. And at this point, what the manual recommends is when you reach to Mach 7.4, activate the Mach hold to hold that Mach value instead of the indicated airspeed, and the aircraft will follow that. And as you see, even if I do gradually increase the throttles to the max they recommend in the manual 112, we lost the pitch as we climbed into thinner air, and this is expected, so not a surprise there, but we will eventually make it to 32,000 feet. We are coming up to Mach 7.4, and we will probably keep Mach 7.4 and hold it when we reach to Mach 7.4 for the rest of the climb, which is a couple thousand feet. Mach 7.4, there it is. We will switch to Mach hold, and this should help with our pitch, because we will be now holding a Mach speed, not an indicator airspeed speed, and that should speed up our climb. One thing I forgot to mention, the TCAS doesn't turn on automatically in this aircraft. This is the TCAS switch. You need to set this to on, and that's the range switch where you can go up to 40 kilometers range, and that's how you activate your TCAS. Sorry about that, I forgot to mention it. And we are currently cruising nicely on our flight plan routing. While climb, I forgot to change from heading mode to nav mode or navigation mode, and we drifted a little bit, but I realized that off screen and moved back to navigation mode, and the aircraft had no problems getting back on the flight plan routing. As you see, we are holding Mach 7.4 and we are climbing a little bit faster, and we are almost at 32,000 feet, and we will switch to cruise, and we will hold Mach 7.7 between 7.76 and 7.8, Mach 0.7678. I am planning to do Mach 7.7 and make that our cruise speed when we are at cruise. Alright, just a little bit more, 500 feet, and we should see the altitude hold button light up when we are ready to capture the altitude, and that will be it for the climb. And before I cut the video for the rest of the cruise, after setting the aircraft up for cruise, I will talk about the top of descent calculation and how you are supposed to do it using GNS 530. and I will bring you guys back when we are ready to descend. So hopefully that will save some time and you don't have to sit here and watch. As you see, the altitude hold is now engaged and the aircraft is gradually pitching down to maintain 32,000 feet. This takes some time. She will just go up and down, wobble a little bit, but she will eventually get to 32,000 feet and hold it just fine. And the other thing is, because we commanded a Mach hold, aircraft will command and maintain that Mach speed 7.4 when we engage the auto throttle. If we don't want that to happen, we need to reset the autopilot and then go back to nav. And now we are at altitude hold and we are now waiting for our Mach speed to climb to where we need it. I said 7.7, so I will cruise at 7.7 or 7.8 to get there a little bit faster. We will burn just a little bit more fuel, but so be it. And I will experiment with one thing to see if it's making any difference when we are cruising. We should get there very shortly. We are still increasing our speed slowly but surely. So we are at 7.7. Let's hold Mach 7.7. So let's press Mach hold one more time and engage our auto throttle, and the aircraft should maintain Mach 7.7 and 32,000 feet. So that's the cruise setting. That's how you need to do it at cruise. Engage the auto throttle to hold the Mach value and hold the altitude, and we should be just fine after that. She will eventually go up and down to maintain the altitude. It's natural, it's not getting any crazy. The other thing I'd like to mention is these buttons over here. It says autopilot max bank, but I think that's written incorrectly. This is the bank limiter. As far as my testing goes, this limits how much the autopilot will bank. And I think that's expected, right? You are carrying a very heavy payload and you want to limit your banking just to avoid that cargo shifting in the back and eventually causing damage to either the aircraft or the cargo itself. So that's the bank limiter. This one over here next to it, I think this is the pitch limiter. I don't think this is maximum pitch. This is limiting how much the aircraft can pitch using autopilot so that the cargo in the back is safe. I tried this off screen, and when I engaged this, the aircraft was not pitching as aggressively and not banking as aggressively. So tell me about your experience if you decide to test these buttons, and share in the comments if that's also true for you. I'd like to hear, and it makes me curious how your experience is with this. So that's the autopilot pretty much. We have covered this basically. Again, these modes, VOR will track the VOR. These two are heading, co-pilot and first officer heading, navigation, VOR2, and then this is the approach. And we will talk how you use the approach mode and how these buttons change when you are in approach mode when we get down there. Alright, let's get down to the GNS 530 and let's plan how we are going to calculate our top of descent, because we don't have a top of descent calculator in this aircraft. But thanks to working title, we have a VNAV button here. We can push this cursor in and set a target altitude. So our target altitude for ILS into runway 24 at Rusin Airport in Prague is 4,000 feet. So we will set this to 4,000. Hit enter. Move on to the next field. Target position is going to be, let me see, 20 miles I think is a good ballpark. So we will do 1, 2, and 20 miles before the airport. So we'll go and select our airport, our destination airport, Lima Kilo, or we can select runway 24. That's even better. So before our landing runway, hit enter and move on to the next field, and we want to descend at 1,500 feet per minute. Enter that, and now we have a descent calculator here saying begin descent in 1 hour and 2 minutes. So that's how we are going to descend, and that's how you calculate your top of descent using the GNS 530. I think this will be it for the cruise part of the video, and I will bring you guys back when we are ready to descend. Welcome back, friends. We are nearing our top of descent, 5 minutes out, and we have been holding Mach 7.7 all the cruise long, and following and monitoring the aircraft to make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do. As you see, we have 5 minutes to top of descent, and we will see how accurate this is, but let's talk about how we are going to descend. For now, we are going to maintain Mach 7.7, and we will be using the vertical speed mode. In the manual, it says it's not advised to use because it's overly sensitive, but in my experience, this works like a charm, and it will descend us very nicely, very stable, without causing too much pitch ups and pitch downs. I have been using this, had no problems, it works just fine. And if I click and hold, you see 0 feet per minute. So we will set this to 1500. This dial is, I believe, in meters per second, so this might not match feet per minute, but I believe each number here is 200 feet per minute. So we should be doing like roughly 7.5 on this dial to descend 1500 per minute, 1500 feet per minute. So that's how I calculated this roughly, and that's what we are going to do to descend. But first we need to set our altitude. We don't have any restrictions on our flight plan routing, so we will set straight 4000, and we will set it on our altitude selector 1219. So let's go 19 first, and then let's do the 12. So 1219 meters is 4000 feet. That is now set. Let's see how much we got left. 3 minutes to descend, and we will initiate the descent by selecting this button, which is the vertical speed hold mode, and then adjust this dial to command 1500 per feet descent. We don't need to be super precise, we just need to be close, and hopefully that will give us what we need. So far the flight has been very pleasing, very enjoyable. She is definitely a beast, but she is tamed well enough that you can just do it all by yourself, where it requires 6 people to fly her in real life. I think that's understandable why AnyBuilds built this aircraft the way they built it, because in a simulator you are on your own, and in real life this aircraft is flown by 6 people. If this was a high fidelity airliner, you would have hard time controlling everything to fly this bird. Remember the Concorde from DC Designs? It's developed in a similar way, but in my opinion, AnyBuilds did a better job with this aircraft than the DC Designs Concorde. So let's see how much time we got left. 1 minute 39 seconds. We'll keep an eye on this timer and then initiate our descent. When we get down to 10 seconds, that should give us enough time to set the vertical speed mode and go down to 1500 feet per minute. I'm going to use my controller to set the vertical speed, but you can use the dial in the virtual cockpit as well. Getting close, I will keep you guys here, and I will initiate the descent, point to a couple things, and maybe bring you guys back when we are going to do the approach, because there is nothing to see here after we talk about everything we need to do. As I said, we will hold Mach 7.7 with auto throttle. It works just fine. And we will slow down to 560, 550 kilometers per hour when we are below 24,000 feet. Okay, descent to target. It started select the vertical speed mode, and then we will go and let's see how much we commanded. 900, 1000, 1100, 2, 3, 4, 5. This should be 1500. There we go. Now we are descending. We were a little bit late, but so be it. We will compensate for that and keep descending like this. As you see, we are exactly descending at 1500 feet. Auto throttle is maintaining Mach 7.7 as much as it possibly could, and we should not have any problems. Hopefully this speed fluctuations will give us the time we need, or the time we lost to initiate the descent, because I was speaking too much again. Let's see the message. Approaching VNA profile. Yep, that's fine, we know it. And we will monitor the vertical speed required and maybe adjust accordingly if we are descending too fast. So it looks like it's going towards 1400 feet per minute. Let's just do 1400 then. That should be 1400 now. And what we will do for the rest of the descent is monitor what we are required here and set that vertical speed and keep the aircraft descending without speeding down too much. I'm not sure why we are not holding the Mach 7.7. We should, but looks like we are descending at Mach 7.4. And that is fine. Can we just select this again? Oh yeah, we had to select that again. That's why we slowed down, I guess. And I think it makes sense to descend at Mach 7.4, which is fine. That will change our vertical speed requirement though. And we are descending. We are descending faster than I. Oh, that's the mistake. Sorry, guys. Okay, 1300. Hopefully. Yep, my mistake there. We shouldn't click this button. We should just descend like this. That is a bad mistake on my end, so you just saw what mistakes you can make. So do not touch anything else, just keep vertical hold, don't touch the speed buttons, and keep the auto throttle on, and you should not have any problems. We will play with the speed and the rate of descent. I think 1300 feet is looking good for now, and we'll see where it gets us. I'll bring you guys back when we are getting close to our our approach. And what we can do here to increase the speed is we can command auto throttle to go up to 560. That should give us something close to Mach 7.7. That's maybe my mistake. I didn't set the speed first, and that's why we did not descend at our max speed. But we are already coming down to 24,000 feet, and as you see, we are speeding up now while maintaining 1300 feet per minute, and then this rate is now going up to our initial descent rate of 1500 feet per minute. So let's just do 1500 again, and that should get us where we need to be. Maybe we will descend a little bit faster, but it is fine. Looks like 1400 is also going to help us, and we'll keep the speed like this and slow down if it's necessary. So far it's looking okay, and as I said, I'll bring you guys back when we are ready to talk about the approach. Welcome back, friends. We are coming down to 10,000, and what I did so far is gradually reduce the speed to get down to 460, and I did a calculation and I was reducing by 10-15 kilometers per hour every 1,000 feet to slow down to 250 knots to get ready to pass below 10,000. So we're almost there. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and turn on our landing lights, and I'm monitoring the descent rate required. So it's saying 800. We are descending at 900 feet per minute right now, just to give ourselves more time to prepare the aircraft for landing. I'm not sure how well this is going to work and how precise this VNAV calculation would be. But what I'm trying to do is to give myself time to slow the aircraft down, because we need to be at the bottom of the descent at 460 knots before we start configuring the flaps and setting the aircraft for approach. If you don't give yourself time or enough time or distance from the runway, you might end up configuring late or not having the time to configure your flaps and everything else that's required for landing. Also, off screen, what I did is I tuned the ILS frequency for our ILS into runway 24, 109.1, and the final approach course. On my second nav radio, I tuned the Prague VOR 112.6, set the same approach course because that's right at the airport, and that should give us a good second measure over here on this VOR display as to where we are and how close we are, because I have the DME from the ILS now. We are 22 miles, but that will change because we have a couple turns on our way. If we take a look at our flight plan, as you see, we will just make this weird turns until we get to our runway heading. So it's saying 700 feet per minute. We are currently descending 800 feet per minute. It's fine. We can change it and match the VNAV calculation there, because we don't want to descend too early as well, but we want to maintain the speed like this until we get to the bottom of descent. Although if you have sharp turns, it might be beneficial to slow even further to make the turns a little bit sharper and not overshoot those. And we'll see how the aircraft behaves when we are making these sharp turns ahead of us. So I think now we can remove the bank limiter, although she is not having any problems turning, so I think we are fine. So we should be okay with keeping the bank limiter, and I think it's natural to limit the bank with a heavy payload so that you don't do sudden, or the autopilot doesn't do sudden banks to make the cargo shift in the back. Alright, so where are we at? 7,600. We have 3,000 feet to go, and we are doing just fine following our flight plan routing. Let's sync our heading one more time, because that's going to be important when we are going to execute the approach. We are roughly trying to turn there, I guess. Alright. So, a couple things will happen very fast when we get there. So I'll try to explain them right now. So when we are ready to intercept the localizer, what we are going to do is move this switch to the approach mode and then select this. That will arm the localizer, and when we are close, it will capture and start using the localizer. We will also arm this, which is the pitch hold, but in the approach mode this acts like a glide slope arm, and that will start tracking the glide slope and start the descent when we are on the glide slope. So there's something weird happening here, banking and pitching. So, but we are doing just fine. We are on the route. No worries. 740 feet per minute, which is fine. And let's just zoom in a little bit, see where we are. Okay, so that's the sharp turn, 2 sharp turns, and then that would be the downwind section. We will fly parallel to the runway, make 2 turns to the left to intercept the localizer. Somewhere around here, or after making this turn, we will arm the approach mode and arm the localizer capture. We are passing through clouds. Maybe we should think about turning on the engine anti-ice to auto. Those switches are here, like so. We can just make them auto and not worry about icing up. There's another aircraft. Our TCAS is working, as you see, and the traffic is injected by FSLTL. So I think after this turn I am going to remove the bank limiter because we are coming up to some sharp turns. And so far the aircraft is doing great, capturing these sharp turns and making them a little bit early due to having the bank limiter. Let's do this, and we are at 5,700. I think we will be fine if we descend like this. Let's take the bank limiter off when we level the wings. And we should be okay turning after that. There we go. We are turning a little bit more, but let's just turn the bank limiter off to see if it makes a difference. But you will see the HSI change when we are close to the next waypoint. We are all set in terms of the frequencies and the cores, etc. All we need to do is switch from vertical speed mode when we level off at 4,000 to approach mode. I think I'm gonna increase the descent rate just a tiny bit to get there a little bit faster, to give myself room to configure the aircraft. So let's go up a little bit and descend a little bit faster, and we will level off hopefully before making the turn. It started raining, which is interesting. So we'll see what kind of weather is waiting for us at our destination airport. So let's sync the heading one more time, and we will eventually get the heading to the final approach course, but we are about to level off now. And we are very close from our destination. As you see, these two are the last turns that we are going to make. So I'm gonna start slowing the aircraft down. I'm gonna go down to 400 and below 450 kilometers per hour. We are going to go flaps 2. So I'm watching here to see my actual indicated airspeed, and I'm ready to deploy the flaps one notch when we are below 450. That's 450. Flaps are coming in now, and we will keep slowing below 450 to roughly like 350, and when we are below 400 we will go flaps 15, and then we will just drop the landing gear after that point. So we are slowing down just nicely, coming down to 400 and about to slow down below 400. Started to see the ground. There we go, flaps 15. And after the turn, we are about to make the turn, I will deploy the landing gear and slow down to 300. So far so good. We are holding the altitude just fine. And when we make this turn, things are going to happen a little bit fast because I have to select the approach mode and select Captain VR1 for the HSI. Why are we not turning? We should be turning now, anytime, right? No, we're not turning. Okay, so that's a problem. Let's go to heading mode. And this is where your heading sync becomes handy. Let's turn the aircraft ourselves. So that was a manual sector or sequence, I guess. So we will make that right turn, almost 90 degrees, and then it is time for us to go and drop the landing gear. We are a little bit late, but it's okay, we will manage it. Gear is coming down now, and then we will slow to 300. That will take some time as well. And we will keep deploying flaps. Below 370, we will deploy flaps. Speed is jumping. Okay, flaps 25. And below 330, flaps full. We will arm the approach mode now. and arm the localizer and arm the glide slope. So the aircraft should maintain the blue arc, the blue speed, which is our approach speed. So let's slow down to our approach speed. I can't see what it is, but we will match the speed bug to that blue, and it should slow us down to our approach speed. So let's see where we are. We are coming on course. We should be turning again. Hopefully we will capture the localizer. Let's switch to Captain's VOR1. And if we don't, you have to make the turn myself using the heading mode. I guess that's what is going to be required. Alright, let's do that. I don't want to be late for this. We will turn the heading to our final approach heading. We will start the turn and go to heading 240, and then do everything all again, like arming the approach and all that stuff. Oh, we turned too much. I'm trying to catch up to 2.4. There we go. That is 2.4. Approach mode is coming in again. Arm the localizer, arm the glide slope. So now we should get on the localizer. And that's how you can tell. Because this second one, I'm sorry, this is localizer captured. So if I go there, let me do this very quickly to show you. You'll see course stabilization. That means localizer is now captured, and we are waiting for glide slope. Glide slope is this little arrow here, and we are on our approach speed. Let's do this. Let's do the landing checklist, or landing check. We will hold this button for 10 seconds, and it will tell us if we are configured correctly for landing. We are hoping to see a green light there. There we go. Our landing configuration is confirmed, and we will be we are on the localizer. I am just looking to see the airport, and I will take control. One more thing we need to do, I need to check the minima. That is 200, and this is also in meters, our minimums. So that little red bug, if we get it to 61, that's the minimums for radio altitude. That's 200 feet. So we don't have, we have to use decision height instead of decision altitude because of this using the radio altitude. And we can check it here to help us. Radio altitude, there it is. That's our radio altitude. Okay, this looks good. And we will disconnect the auto throttle and autopilot when we capture the glide slope and see how we can land. Landing is a little bit challenging because if you fly the 737 Airbus A320 LLAT, your perception of how close you are to the runway is going to change because this aircraft is much more higher than those, and you need to flare a lot more early. So to mitigate that, we are going to keep an eye on our altitude over here and see if that is going to help us. Alright, coming up at 9 miles, we should capture the glide slope. So we are at 11, and that's the glide slope needle. It didn't start moving just yet, but it will eventually. Gonna quickly check the course. Yep, it is looking normal. And I think it's a good idea to synchronize our heading one more time. Oh, what was this? Oh, heading is not going to change now, right? Because, yeah, we are on the course. We already set it to 240. Alright, so we are doing just fine. Maybe a little bit more speed to stay on that blue speed bug. Just like that. That looks good to me. And we are waiting for glide slope capture. Why are we not seeing it? Interestingly, my glide slope needle, oh, Captain Land is what we need to select. There we go. I'm sorry guys, I forgot about it. There is the glide slope moving down. I did not select the right mode to display it. 9 miles. Glide slope captured. We are descending. Alright, all looking good now. I have the airport in sight, and we will monitor and see when we are going to disconnect the autopilot. Also, I need to get my physical throttle close to where the virtual throttles are, because when we don't want the aircraft to speed up when we disconnect the auto throttle and when I touch my throttle, so that I don't have to worry about speeding up and losing the glide slope. All looking good. There we are, coming down with the Antonov AN-225. This aircraft has been very fun to fly. I enjoy it. I think this is a very good addition to your virtual hangar, and I am looking forward to many more flights to come with the AN-225. The only thing I wish was present is to get some sort of wind information, but I think the GNS 430 is not going to give us that. So we will see how the winds are. The METAR report over here says, did we sync the... Yeah, we did. The QNH, I was worried that I didn't sync it, but we did. The METAR report says winds are coming from 270 at 8 knots, so not too bad. And our radio altitude started to move, so we are going to see if we are going to hear the minimums call. They are a little bit quieter than I would like. So hopefully in an update, Inibuilds will give us more higher altitude volume, or in the altitude calls or the minimum calls and etc. Because it's hard to hear when your engines are too loud. 2,500 feet. And just to mention, the airport elevation here is 12,034 feet. Okay, so it's looking nice. I'm getting ready to disconnect the autopilot and the auto throttle. And we'll see how good we will land this thing. I'm gonna wait a little bit more because the needle is still a little bit off. 3 miles. Let's do this. That's the minimum, that's the altitude call, I believe. Okay. Autopilot is now off, and I am controlling the plane. So I'm keeping an eye on the glide slope, the poppies, and my altitude, and trying to not to touch my throttles because it is set nicely, and I don't have to worry about. I'm off to the left a little bit, in my opinion, and I don't want to be too high. What we are going to do is we are going to idle the throttles when passing the threshold and let her sink naturally. So I'm getting ready to do that. We are following the glide perfectly. We should correct just a tiny bit. Minimums is coming. Oh, this is very nice. We are a little bit high. Let's get the nose down just a tiny bit. Not too much at this stage because you will just slam her to the ground. Oh, still too high. Let's get down on the profile. And we are about to pass the threshold. Cut the throttles. And watching the altitude and pitching her up so that we don't really... Oh, that was a hard landing, I guess. Or FS Realistic is a little bit over-exaggerated. By the way, that was FS Realistic shaking us when landing. We can put the reversers. Alright, reverse thrust is on, and we should slow down and maybe roll down the runway to take an exit. I'm not sure how well we landed. I should turn off or close FS Realistic. Alright, that's enough. Reversers are brought in. And we will take the next possible exit to vacate the runway. Still learning how to land. It's challenging. So, oh, don't look to the other screen when you are on the runway. Alright, we will take this next left and vacate the runway. Remember, our nose wheel gear is still turned off, so it's better to turn it on now because we are going to start using our nose wheel. Let's get towards this and vacate the runway and configure our flaps, retract them, and slow down just a tiny bit more. There we go. Okay, flaps are coming in. Landing lights now coming off. And let me just show you this. Taxi lights are coming on. Probe lights will come off. Transponder will go back to standby. TCAS will be turned off. Range can be changed back to where it was. And to taxi, we will put high idle for our engines and bring the speed brakes in. Alright, so we should get moving now and find ourselves a parking spot. What we can do, let's just call GSX, and there are no suitable parking, so let's find it ourselves, because I don't know if there are any cargo bays or bigger places that we can park this aircraft. I'm not sure where the cargo terminal is. It appears like it is at the east apron, but we will turn like this and find ourselves a parking spot. Alright, I don't want you guys watching me taxiing, so let's meet when we are getting ready to park this aircraft. Alright, I guess this is where we are going to park. This is not a normal size aircraft that you would park at normal places or ramps, so that's, I think, understandable. And I find this nice empty area that looks like either a GA aircraft area or a cargo area. So I will assume, because I don't know about this airport, or I will think this is as a cargo ramp or terminal, and I will just go ahead and park here. So we will just come over here, line ourselves up. Let's turn off the taxi lights. We are about to park, and let's see how good I am going to align the aircraft with the yellow line. Right now it doesn't look great. I need to make a little bit more to the left, just like so, and then maybe I should just raise my view just a tiny bit so that I don't put myself into a bad spot. And that looks like a ground vehicle area or ground traffic passage, so we will stop here, set our parking brakes, and take a look outside. Not too bad, not too bad. I think this will work. We are safe and sound, came here, and we need to now talk about what we are going to do to shut the aircraft down. I already started the AP, was getting ready to start the APUs, but I did not start them because I didn't want to miss my parking spot. But what we did like earlier is going to be the same. To start the APUs, hopefully they will. So it's ready to start. Air intake not closed. What does that supposed to mean? Interesting. Oh, maybe the anti-ice. Let's close them off. because we turned them on, remember? And maybe turn the pitot heat off too, just what you would do normally, and let's see if this will start the APU. I'm not sure what that message is. Interesting. Are we going to have APU power? Wait a minute guys, I'm trying to solve the issue here. What is this? Turn valve. Master. Fuel heater. I don't know what's going on here. I did not touch anything, but APU does not want to stop. There's nothing else I can do, I guess. Keep this off for now and see if I can start number 1 APU. I'm holding the switch down to see if it's going to start, but this might be a bug or something. It says ready to start, it says air intake not closed. I'm not sure what that means. It looks like we are not going to start the APU. So be it. So we will just open and turn off our hydraulic pumps. All off one by one. Go down, open here. We don't need to actually do everything over here. And I'm gonna check the APU one more time. It's not starting for some reason, I'm not sure why. Did I change anything that I'm not aware over here? Let's just put them back to where they were. Maybe that's what's preventing from APU to start. And it's still not, oh, it is running. Did we never stop the APU? We did, I believe. Oh, it's running. Okay, let's just turn this off. I'm not sure why it's showing like this, but looks like our APU is still running, or maybe something happened, I don't know. Let's not worry about it, so there was nothing wrong, I guess. APU is running, so we can shut down our engines. Sorry about that, guys. To shut the engines down, we'll make sure they are at idle. And we will press the switches. So I'm gonna tell you one thing though. When you press this stays in, I believe. Okay, that should shut our engines down. Yep, there we go. All the engines are now shutting down. And we will go ahead and turn the APU gens online. Engine generators go back to off. And this is how you do it if you want to stay on APU power. If you'd like to turn the APU off and completely shut down the aircraft and open your cargo bay to unload your cargo, you can do so. Go to the ground, set the chocks, and set the main door to open. And there you have it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something you didn't know before. The landing was a little bit rough, I admit, but I'm still learning how to land this aircraft properly, and it takes more than 2-3 landings to get the feel of it and get used to it. So I will improve over time and hopefully become better at landing this aircraft properly. Thanks for being here with me today, and I'll be seeing you in the next video.